Okay, everybody, welcome into week four here at Professional Communication. This week we're going to continue looking at interpersonal communication, but instead of looking at communication between just two people, we're going to be looking at what's called small group communication. So this is anywhere from 3 to roughly 20 people that are in the same group and communicating with one another. And it's very appropriate that we're looking at small group communication this week because you'll be doing the most intense small group work that you have done so far this week, because you do have your checkpoint assignment one due at the end of the week, which is the first real intense kind of assignment that you'll be doing as a group in your final project groups. We'll talk more about checkpoint assignment one here in a second. But before we really get into this week, as always, I want to go ahead and just take a quick look back at last week and see what we talked about. So last week we first talked about verbal communication, and this again is the words that we're using to create meaning and do various things as a human being, whether that's develop relationships, get our message across, whatever the case may be. We utilize verbal communication to do that. And we talked about the importance of denotative and connotative meaning when it came to verbal communication, the words that we use, right? The denotative, like that dictionary definition, the definition that everyone can agree upon. But then the connotative definition of a word, that's more of the emotional kind of appeal that that word brings on. So we talked about words like addiction, where that it might have a strong connotative meaning to them, depending on a person's history. The word nurse carries certain connotations with it, and we talked about that last week, so hopefully that made sense to you as we went through. If you have any questions about that, let me know. We also talked about nonverbal communication, everything that's not the actual words that we're using, and we talked about how important nonverbal communication is. 93% of all communication is nonverbal in nature, so we talked about that last week as well, and we talked about the different categories of nonverbal communication, with haptics and proxemics and vocalics and all those different things we talked about last week. So hopefully you see that connection with how verbal communication and nonverbal communication really work together to convey meaning and to get your point across a lot better. Because remember, communication is a process, and the words we use, the connotations they carry, the nonverbal cues that we give, all of those things help us along in that process. And that's very important in the healthcare industry to be able to do that. So, again, any questions about that, let me know. We also had a couple supplemental videos about social skills, right? These skills that we use when we're interacting with other people that help us really maximize the positive response we get and kind of minimize the negative response. And they can really help us achieve a lot of things socially when we're dealing with other people. So hopefully you checked out the videos on that. And then we have the concept of listening and learning. Again, the supplemental videos really brought that home when it came to the healthcare industry, how listening and learning from the patient to really understand what's going on with the patient is very important. And the social skill of active listening allows us to do that even better. So that's what we hit on last week. Hopefully everything made sense to you. If not, you can always reach me, brandon.schweitzer@altmancollege.edu. As far as the graded components go, it was a pretty light week last week, if you remember. Only quiz 4 that you had. I told you to utilize that extra time to get together with your group members and look at the parameters of the checkpoint 1 assignment and everything like that, and kind of start working on that last week. So hopefully you took my advice and did that, because it will be due at the end of this week. All right, so looking at this week, as far as the topics that we'll be covering, we're going to continue in Unit 2, which again is interpersonal communication. This week we'll be looking at group communication. So again, anything from 3 to roughly 20 people that are all working together in the same group, communicating with one another. That's group communication. There's also going to be some great videos talking about effective team communication, how to work effectively in a team environment, how to utilize the skills that you have, the things to look for in a team environment so that you can steer things in the right direction and make sure that you're getting the most out of your team kind of experience that you're having in this semester. And we're also going to talk about a concept called group think. Interesting concept where if you're not trying to challenge one another, if you're just kind of going with the flow or not really having any kind of intellectual debate about what direction you're wanting to go, we have this tendency to kind of just take whatever the first thought we have and go with it, as opposed to really looking at all of our options for what's best for us in a group project. So that's what we'll be hitting this week. And again, very appropriate because you are working in your groups this week to work on that Checkpoint 1 assignment. So what is the material that you'll be needing to look at this week? For this week, you've got just one lecture video to look at. The lecture video, it encompasses quite a bit about group communication and group think and everything of that nature. So you'll definitely want to check that out. There's also going to be 5 short supplemental videos to watch. Those are required viewing, so make sure that you're watching those as well. They're going to talk about small group communication, working effectively in teams, all those kind of things. So make sure that you're checking those out. As far as assignment sheets, you got 2 of those. You've got the Checkpoint Assignment 1 assignment sheet, and you've got the Unit Video Journal 3 assignment sheet. And I definitely want to talk more about both of these assignments and take some time to do that so that I can get some clarification to you as far as that goes. With the Checkpoint Assignment, what we're looking at with this is I take the 3 main components of the final project, and I break them into 3 what I call checkpoint assignments that you'll be doing throughout the semester. The whole goal really for me to help you out with the checkpoint assignments is to have you doing these individual bite-sized chunks throughout the semester so that you don't have to do everything at the end. It's as you're working on them throughout the semester, I'm able to give you feedback. You can work on the different portions of the final project so that by the time the end of the semester rolls around, it's really just a matter of making some adjustments here and there to what you've already worked on with the checkpoint assignments, and then utilizing everything that you have to create that final presentation that you'll be doing at the end of the semester. So to get any kind of clarification on what I'm talking about, make sure you check out the final project assignment sheet that's up on our LMS. Look that over, check that out. Make sure you really give it a good look over. If you have questions, you can certainly email me on that. But as far as the checkpoint assignment this week, what you're doing is you're taking the communication theory that was assigned to you. You're going to look into that theory and kind of get the basic gist of it, right? The basic understanding. Look at the PowerPoint that I provided for it. Do a little bit of your own research into it. Find out what it is that theory is trying to explain. What kind of behavior is that particular theory trying to explain? For example, the uncertainty reduction theory. What's it trying to explain? Well, it's saying that when we're in a situation where we're not sure of what's going on, as human beings, we really hate uncertainty. We hate unpredictability. So what we want to do is ask a bunch of questions and try to figure out what's happening so that we can get that more of that certainty. We really see this when we are forming new relationships with new people, whether that's romantic relationships or friendships or colleagues at work or with patients, whatever the case may be. We really see uncertainty reduction theory coming out a lot when we do relationship building. Expectancy violation theory, right? The idea that as human beings, we have an understanding of how people should or shouldn't act in different situations, and when someone acts in a way that doesn't really line up with those expectations, the expectations we have are violated, which means red flags go off and kind of tell us that something's not quite right. Now, just because something's not quite right doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we could have positive violations of our expectations as opposed to negative, and looking into that theory will tell you more about that. So we've also got the attribution theory. The attribution theory says that when we're judging the reasons why people act the way we do, we're trying to attribute their behavior to some kind of reason. We have a tendency to do one of 2 things. We either do what's called a dispositional attribution, where we think it's personality flaws or kind of psychological factors that are leading to the reason why something happened, or we'll do situational kind of attributes, where it's more situational factors from the outside of a person that are causing them to have to act the way they do. And looking into that theory will tell you more about the difference between the two, situational versus dispositional, in a much better way. So when you have those theories explain certain kinds of behaviors. So, for example, if I'm not quite sure about what's going on in a particular situation, I may ask a lot of questions. Or if I'm trying to develop a relationship with my healthcare provider, I may ask questions that are a little bit more personal or divulge a little bit more personal information when I'm doing so. That's the kind of behavior uncertainty reduction theory would explain. Expectancy violation theory, when something happens, a person acts in a way that I don't really expect them to act, I'm going to respond to them in a certain way because my expectations were violated. Now, it could be a positive or a negative response, but I'm going to respond to them in some kind of way based on that. And then attribution theory, when someone says or does something, I'm going to try to figure out why it is that they did that, and I'm going to attribute it to either psychological or external factors. And all of these really have an impact on how we interact with other people. All three of these theories could really explain a lot of problematic behavior. If I'm attributing a patient's lack of ability to do the post-care things they're supposed to do, and I'm attributing that to psychological factors like them being lazy or them just not caring, that's not fair to them. If indeed the real case was a situational factor, like they just didn't understand how to do something, or they couldn't get a ride to physical therapy, or whatever the case may be. So you could see how these different theories would really explain certain types of problematic behavior. Your job this week is to figure that out, right? Take your theory and figure out the type of problematic behavior that your theory would explain. And then you're going to describe that behavior. What is that behavior? Talk about it. Talk about, there's direct prompts for you to follow. Like, why is this important? Who does this affect? What is the problem itself? And then you're going to create an in-depth narrative. You're going to write a story that is a real-life example of that particular problem happening in a healthcare setting. And that's what Checkpoint Assignment 1 is all about. It's about setting the stage. What is the problem that you're going to be dealing with throughout this project? Why is it important to deal with? Who does it impact? What is it about it? And you're going to provide a very solid, very in-depth narrative, a story, that has dialogue and has action and has explanation and has all those things to it that really paints the picture to the reader of what is going on in that situation. What is the actual behavior that you're really trying to dig into and explain, and ultimately with your action plan try to help solve this problem in your healthcare setting. So that's what Checkpoint Assignment 1 is about. Hopefully you listened to this and you got a better explanation of it. If you still have questions, email me and I'll be more than happy to help you and your group out as far as that goes. The unit video journal, the third unit video journal assignment is up. I've been pretty lenient on the first 2 unit video journals because I wanted to make sure that everyone kind of understood what was going on, and I think we need some clarification on that. So a unit video journal looks ahead to a unit that we haven't even started yet. And the example here, we're going to be looking at Unit 3. Unit 3 does not start until next week with weeks 5 and 6. So what you're going to do is go back to the syllabus, go to the course calendar section of the syllabus, look at Unit 3 and see what it is we're going to be talking about in Unit 3. All the topics for Unit 3 are in the course calendar part of the syllabus. So look at those different topics and find one that looks interesting to you, one that you're kind of looking forward to learning a little bit more about. Do a little tiny bit of research on, just enough to kind of get a gist of what it is, and then write that down and make some notes about it and everything like that. Then I want you to find another topic that you really, you're not quite sure what it's all about, not really looking forward to learning about it so much, and write down a little bit about it as well. and then just do a 2 to 3 minute video that is you talking about those two topics, the one that you're looking forward to talking about that is interesting to you and a little bit about what it's going to be about, and then the one that you really don't understand or you really don't look forward to and a little bit about what it's about. And you're going to talk about those. And the whole point of this is to do two things, really. For you, it's to get you to look ahead at what we're going to be studying coming up, as opposed to things just hitting you and you kind of getting ambushed each week. This gives you a chance to look ahead at what's going to be coming up next week so you're more prepared for it. The other thing that it does is it helps me for future classes, for me to be able to say, okay, well, it looks like overall these are the kind of topics that the students are interested in, but then these ones aren't so much as interesting. And that allows me to kind of tweak things that I'm doing and everything like that. So that's the whole point of the Unit Video Journal 3. It's not there to look at the things we've already looked at and kind of review them. It's looking ahead to the things we haven't even started on and getting your take, a student's perspective, on what looks interesting and what looks not so interesting to help out in the future. So that's the whole point of the Unit Video Journals there. So this week I'm going to be grading a little bit more on that spin. So hopefully, again, you watch this video here for the weekly review and you understand that. Any questions on that, please feel free to email me. Okay, so let's look lastly at the graded components that we have for this week. You've got three main things that you've got to do this week. You've got the checkpoint assignment 1, that'll be due Sunday. With that's a group project that you have. That's what I was just explaining how to do. The assignment sheet was put up last week for you to look at. I've also put it in this week's module so that you're able to look at it there. Any questions? Let me know. Unit Video Journal 3 will also be due this Sunday. I just explained that. If you do have questions, let me know. There is an assignment sheet up in this week on the LMS. Check that out. And then we've got Quiz 5. Same old with the quizzes. Same format that you're already doing. And it will be covering this week's material, looking at groupthink, looking at small group communication, effective team communication, all those kind of things. So that's what we've got as far as graded components this week. And then just some final thoughts. Work in your groups, get that checkpoint assignment 1 completed. Remember, you turned in a group plan and a group contract that talked about what your expectations are and what you want to happen and everything like that. So hopefully you're able to adhere to that and do what you need to do as far as that goes. Remember, checkpoint assignment, it helps you create the final project. Work towards that final project with this in mind. That big presentation that you'll be doing at the end of the semester, all of these checkpoint assignments work towards it. They're not separate entities. They all work together to help you for that at the end of the semester. And then when it comes to this week with your group members, pay attention to the different group member performances that you see this week, because next week you're going to be doing evaluations on your group members. How did certain people do when it came to working on the project? Did they communicate well? Did they do their share of what was going on? Because remember, everyone doesn't get the same grade on the final project. This feedback that I get as far as the evaluations and everything of that nature, it does play a big part in the final grade that you get on your final project. So make sure that you're being fair and accurate when it comes to the feedback that you're giving. And remember, if there is negative feedback that's being given about you, to look back at that contract and look back at the understandings that your group had and make sure that you're fulfilling them, because this will impact your grade on the final project. All right, any questions? You can always email me, brandon.schweitzer@altmancollege.edu. Everybody have a fantastic week. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be back with next week's overview, and hopefully everything goes well for you this week. Thank you.